there are gods who rule the sea. Gods who command thunder. Gods who govern love, war, and the harvest. But in the spiritual imagination of India, there is one deity who refuses every simple definition. He wears no crown of gold. He sits alone in the frozen silence of the Himalayas. His body is smeared with ash from the cremation ground. A serpent coils around his throat. A crescent moon rests upon his brow. From his tangled locks descends the sacred river Ganga. His eyes are closed in perfect stillness. Yet within him lies the power to dissolve the universe. This is Shiva. To many, he is known as the god of destruction. But that title is deeply misunderstood. Shiva is not destruction for its own sake. He is the force that strips away illusion. He destroys everything false: the ego, attachment, ignorance, fear. And when all that is unreal has fallen away, what remains is truth. To understand Shiva is to understand one of humanity's most profound insights. That destruction is not always an ending. Sometimes it is the beginning of awakening. Long ago, the gods Brahma and Vishnu fell into a bitter dispute. Brahma, the creator, declared that he was the supreme power. Vishnu, the preserver, insisted that he alone sustained the universe. Their voices thundered across the heavens. The worlds trembled. Then, without warning, a column of fire erupted between them. It rose beyond the stars. It plunged deeper than the underworld. Its beginning could not be found. Its end could not be seen. Brahma transformed into a swan and flew upward through the blinding light. He climbed higher and higher, but the summit never appeared. Vishnu became a boar and burrowed downward into the cosmic abyss. He descended for ages, but the pillar had no root. At last, exhausted and humbled, they returned, for the first time. Both gods bowed in silence. The pillar of fire opened, and from its heart emerged Shiva. He was not merely another god. He was the infinite reality from which all gods arise. The beginningless and endless source of existence itself. This is why Shiva is often worshipped in the form of the linga, not as an idol, but as a symbol of the formless absolute, a mystery beyond shape, beyond language, beyond comprehension. Yet Shiva was not always a distant cosmic principle. He also knew love. After the death of his first wife, Sati, Shiva withdrew from the world. He retreated to the snowy heights and entered meditation so profound that centuries passed like a single breath. The gods grew uneasy. Without Shiva's union with divine energy, the balance of the universe remained incomplete. Far below, Sati was reborn as Parvati, daughter of the mountains. From childhood, she knew that her destiny was to awaken the great ascetic. Parvati renounced comfort. She stood barefoot in the snow. She fasted until her body grew thin. She endured heat, cold, hunger, and loneliness. Seasons passed. Still she remained. The wind tore at her garments. Ice formed in her hair. Yet her devotion never wavered. At last, Shiva opened his eyes. He saw in Parvati not merely a woman, but the other half of existence itself. Their union was more than a marriage. It was the joining of consciousness and energy, stillness and movement, Shiva and Shakti. Without Shakti, consciousness remains inert. Without consciousness, energy is directionless. Together, they create the cosmos. But the greatest power of Shiva is not his ability to create. It is his ability to absorb what would destroy everything else. Once, the gods and the asuras churned the cosmic ocean in search of the nectar of immortality. They wrapped the serpent Vasuki around a mountain and began to turn. The sea roared, the heavens darkened, treasures rose from the depths. But before the nectar emerged, a deadly poison surfaced, Halahala. Its fumes spread across the universe. Stars dimmed. The gods staggered. The oceans began to boil. There was no refuge, no cure, no escape. Then Shiva stepped forward. Without hesitation, he gathered the poison in his hands and drank it. Parvati rushed to his side and clasped his throat, preventing the venom from entering his heart. The poison remained in his neck, staining it deep blue. From that day, Shiva was called Nilakantha, the blue-throated one. He did not destroy the poison. He contained it. He transformed catastrophe into stillness. This is one of Shiva's greatest lessons. The highest consciousness does not run from darkness. It can hold the poison of existence without becoming poisoned. Yet even the gods feared Shiva's immense detachment, for a powerful demon threatened heaven, and only a son born of Shiva and Parvati could defeat him. But Shiva remained lost in meditation, so the gods turned to Kamadeva, the god of desire. As spring blossomed around Mount Kailash, Kama drew his floral bow. He released an arrow of longing into Shiva's heart. For one brief moment, Shiva's eyes opened. Then his third eye blazed. A torrent of fire burst forth. Kamadeva was reduced to ashes. The forests fell silent. Desire itself had been burned away. But Shiva had not destroyed love. He had destroyed compulsion, the restless craving that enslaves the mind. True freedom begins when desire no longer rules us. When the sages asked what the universe itself was doing, Shiva answered not with words, but with movement. He began to dance. In the form of Nataraja, lord of the dance, Shiva whirled within a circle of fire. In one hand, he held the Damaru, the drum whose beat marks the birth of time. In another, he held the flame that consumes worlds. One hand offered protection, another pointed toward liberation. His hair flew outward like rivers of energy. Beneath his foot writhed Apasmara, the dwarf of ignorance. The dance was terrible. The dance was beautiful. Stars were born, galaxies spun, civilizations rose and vanished. Atoms trembled to its rhythm. For the universe is not a machine, it is a dance. Everything that begins must end. Everything that ends makes room for something new. Creation and destruction are not opposites. They are steps in the same choreography. And then Shiva revealed another secret. He appeared as Ardhanarishvara, one body divided down the center. One half Shiva, one half Parvati. Masculine and feminine, stillness and flow, consciousness and power. Not rivals, not opposites, but two aspects of one reality. The universe is born through their union, and every human being carries both principles within. Yet perhaps no image of Shiva is more unsettling than the place he chooses to dwell. Not in jeweled palaces, not on golden thrones, but in the cremation ground, among funeral fires, among skulls and ashes, where kings and beggars become indistinguishable, where every title, possession, and ambition is reduced to dust. Shiva covers his body in ash. This is what remains when all forms are consumed, when everything temporary has passed away. He sits calmly in the presence of death, because he knows that death is not the end, only the end of what was never permanent. The serpent around his neck symbolizes mastery over fear. The crescent moon reveals his transcendence over time. The river Ganga flowing through his hair shows that even overwhelming force can be guided into life. And his third eye sees beyond appearances. Two eyes perceive the world of form. The third eye sees what lies behind the mask. When it opens, illusion burns away. This is why Shiva is called the Destroyer. He destroys whatever is false, the identities we cling to, the desires that enslave us, the fears that confine us, the illusions that keep us asleep. And this is why Shiva remains profoundly relevant. Sometimes life acts like Shiva. A relationship ends, a career collapses, a cherished identity dissolves. What once seemed solid turns to ash. In those moments, it feels as if something precious has been taken away. But Shiva asks a deeper question. Was it ever truly yours? And was it ever truly real? Not all destruction is punishment. Sometimes destruction is revelation. Sometimes what burns away was only the illusion, and what survives the fire is the truth of who you are. High above the world, on the silent summit of Mount Kailash, Shiva still sits in meditation. Ash covers his skin. The moon glows softly above his brow. The sacred Ganga flows through his hair. The serpent rests peacefully at his throat. His eyes are closed. Yet within his stillness, galaxies are born and dissolved. He is the ascetic and the lover, the dancer and the yogi, the destroyer and the compassionate protector. He does not come to annihilate life. He comes to remove everything that obscures reality, to burn away illusion, to reveal what cannot be destroyed. And when the fire has consumed every false identity, every attachment, and every fear, what remains is not emptiness. It is consciousness, silent, boundless, eternal. That is Shiva.